welcome you to the afternoon portion of our Summer Summit Health and Wellness. My name is Julia Belaya, and I manage the corporate partnerships for the health vertical here at Plug and Play. Okay. I'll just do it without any slides. So it's our pleasure to welcome you here for our sixth Batch Expo. I'd like to welcome and thank all of our partners here in the room. Oh, there we go. And also, all of this would not be possible without a great team behind me. As we've grown in the past 2.5 years, we've expanded our team. So I'd like to welcome some of our new team members, whose first expo it is, and thank you for all their help in putting all of this together because it really does take a village. And once again, thank you to our partners. This program would not be possible without you. Thank you for your continued dedication in working with these startups and really, helping to build innovation within healthcare. We have a lot of updates from the health program as we've been very expanding in this past year. As many of you know, we've expanded domestically in the past year into Cleveland in partnership with Cleveland Clinic, Jumpstart, and we have a couple of new additions with University Hospital and Einstein Healthcare. So welcome. And it's my pleasure to announce that in September 2018, we'll be expanding for the first time globally into Europe with a program in Munich in partnerships with Roche Diagnostics. And then we are also doing a soft launch at the end of June in China with several of our partners, including Johnson & Johnson, expanding their partnership globally to include Beijing. So if any of these locations are of interest to you, please do find one of us on the team, whether you're a startup that wants to be involved at a global level or a corporation that is interested in one of these locations. So these are some of the focus areas that we've been exploring with our partners for this last batch. It's been a pleasure working with all of the companies, and you'll see, a good breadth across the healthcare continuum in the pictures today. So this is, for those of you not familiar with the Plug and Play model, we select over 1,000 companies per batch based on our partners' interests and whittle it down to the 19 of the top companies you'll see pitching today. I've heard one of my colleagues say this, I'm not sure how true it is, but it's harder to get into one of these batches than it is as an undergrad into Stanford University. So you're about to see a very exquisite list of companies whittled down with the help of our partners and the topics of interest that they've provided. So a quick overview of our batch 6. We had over 100 startup intros, 18 deal flows, 120 startup intros mentors, 35 mentor sessions throughout the 3 months, and a number of wonderful events. So we do encourage anyone that's an audience that's interested in being involved as a mentor, as a corporate partner, or as a startup, to please approach one of us and get involved in the upcoming Batch 7. These are some of our investments for 2017 and 2018. We are really ramping up our digital health investment through the program and are looking to beat this in the coming year. And this is our program timeline looking forward to Batch 7. So as I said before, I encourage anyone in the audience that's interested in participating. We're kicking off in August, so please do either apply online or find one of us here on the team. Well, with that, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our fireside chat, moderated by Robert Mittendorf, a great friend of the program, has been with us since the beginning. He is a practicing emergency room physician and a partner at Norwest. And he will be speaking to Andrew from Tiger Connect. So please help me in welcoming them both. And thank you.
Okay, good. We're live. Well, first of all, I want to make sure we have 45 minutes. Is that right, Nana? Good. And I want to thank Plug and Play today for the opportunity to have a conversation with Dr. Andrew Brooks. We'll get into his bio in a second, but before we start, I just want to reiterate how I think important plug and play has become in Silicon Valley in terms of, we didn't mean to say this, but how important they are in terms of finding new investment opportunities, not only in healthcare, but across sectors. One of our portfolio companies on the consumer side, Lending Club, came out of plug and play. So we spend a lot of time down here. I think it's time well spent with companies that plug and play works with, and happy to be here again today. So I'd like to introduce Andrew a bit, and then I'll ask him to talk a bit about his bio. But it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to interview him today. He was co-founder of a company that we invest in called Tiger Connect, which is a healthcare IT company, which we'll get into. Andrew and his brother founded the company. I'm going to ask Andrew to talk about himself a bit, but Andrew was the physician founder of the company, but also a serial entrepreneur that was successful in his own right. He's a orthopedic surgeon by background, sports medicine trained, and has spent time in the device industry, in the healthcare services industry, and now healthcare IT. So let's get started, Andrew. Maybe just tell us about yourself. Give us some background on don't start too early, but maybe post preschool. Tell us about who you are. How as a physician you got interested in business, and then we'll jump into the first couple of your businesses before we get to Tiger Connect.
Sure. Well, actually, being someone that's not really fond of talking about themselves, I was just kind of feeling on the spot here, but I do think actually there is one factor kind of prior to med school that probably was a fairly shaping thing. I was born in South Africa, and I'm one of 6 kids, and my family immigrated to the U.S. when I was about 11. So, with that sort of being a first-generation immigrant, if you will, we really were sort of encouraged by our parents to pursue things that you can dream of and want to do. And I think that was sort of an important foundational thing to my background. I went to high school and then knew very much that I wanted to be a doctor. I never thought about anything else. In my high school yearbook, all my friends would say, "No, one day you'll, hopefully not have to take care of me," that kind of thing. I stayed in Los Angeles. I went to undergrad at USC, went to USC Med School, and then stayed on there, did my surgical training in orthopedic surgery. I was very interested in minimally invasive surgery, and then did a fellowship in that at the Houston Clinic in Georgia. I never took a business class in my life, nor did I ever think about business, frankly, up until the time I was done with my training. When I got out and started practicing at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles, I was looking forward to that opportunity and thinking, wow, this is an incredible institution. I'll be lucky to practice here. And when I got there in 1996, it was quite astounding how primitive a lot of the stuff that was going on in the operating room was relative to where I had just been from a fellowship. Instruments were hard to come by and so on and so forth. And there's just so much inefficiency in healthcare, and that's really what kind of struck me when I got out for the very beginning. I was like, whoa, there's just so much inefficiency here. So sort of kind of to fast forward, I ended up starting a company that was doing sports rehab for pool therapy in a zero-gravity environment. We had one location that became very busy, and then opened a second one. And as many things occur, I think, with entrepreneurship, so much does revolve around just timing and having to be sort of at the right place at the right time to an extent, assuming you have the right business. So at that time, I was paying off debt. I had a fair amount of debt from med school. I had my practice, which was going well. I had this PT business. And then there was a roll-up going on with a company called Health South that was buying up PT businesses. The CEO actually wound up in jail, but It's all meant and then there was, so they reached out to want to acquire the business because they were looking for some market share in LA and offered me a lot of money for me at the time. And I thought, well, if they want it, maybe someone else might. So I called another company called Beverly Enterprises, and unbeknownst to me, sort of ended up creating my own auction process with these guys, and then sold that company for a lot of money for me at the time. So with that, I sort of realized, wow, if you do create something that somebody wants, then you can certainly create value very quickly and sort of goes on from there. So at that point, I was doing a lot of surgery. I was working in hospitals. I then was just frustrated again with the efficiency side of things and wanted to have my control over my own operating room. So convinced some friends, built one surgical center in Beverly Hills, and made every mistake in the book. But despite that, that very first year, we were still extremely profitable. And I was like, okay, even though I really screwed this up, it's a good business. And ended up building 6 more of those, but all with about 200 surgical partners. And again, not really looking to sell a business, we got approached by another public company called Symbion, and they wanted a footprint of surgical centers within a certain geographic area that they could acquire. So we ended up doing a deal with them as well, which was also pretty good. Just to give you an idea of the magnitude of that, the startup cost, aside from the money we borrowed, was about $135,000, but the deal value of the acquisition was $120 million. So it was pretty good. I thought. So subsequent to that, I was always very passionate about orthopedic surgery, sports med, minimally invasive stuff, and from the time I was a resident, I was doing a lot of design work for companies and selling designs of.
Let me stop you for one second.
Absolutely.
So on the first 2 companies, when we talked about this, and Ann and I have known each other for years on the Tiger Connect investment, and we followed the company for years before that. When 2 things you said that I think are worth discussing in a generalizable way. First of all, you said timing is important, and then the second thing you said is you have a certain amount of humility around making what you call mistakes. So help me understand timing. Some investors will say is 2/3 of your return, right? Timing a market properly. When you're an orthopedic surgeon and you saw this opportunity, part of it was saying, and maybe just identifying those 2 cases, the way you described it to me was moving patients outside of the hospital OR because you were standing waiting for rooms to get turned over for operations you need to do much more efficiently outside of it and having no facility to go to. So help us understand, first of all, in terms of timing, why were those facilities not available and how did you identify that need and capitalize on it at the right time?
Yeah, so I think with businesses, from my vantage point, I've never looked and thought, this is really the right time to do this. It's always, for me, been driven around looking at my own situation or something that I go, this is some kind of inefficiency that's going on that I just feel like I can affect somehow. What happened with the surgical centers is, up until that point, I would say physicians, and part of the problem in healthcare, in my estimation, a major problem are the physicians themselves, because I think physicians are socialized really not to work with one another. They're competitive from undergrad through med school through residency, and when they get out, they don't tend to play well with each other. On the surgical center side of things, I was able to go to different specialties. There were multi-specialties, so they weren't necessarily threatened by me as an orthopedic surgeon. So I could go to ophthalmologists and say, look, let's work together as a team. And by working as a team, we have tremendous synergy with each other. And these cases that are now being done in a hospital on healthy patients that are plugged into a sick person's environment, we can do a lot better than that. And we can also do it at lower cost. And and that sort of thing. So the timing side, just in short, it's not something that I typically go in thinking about in most cases.
And what about the? But you identified a need and you couldn't find a solution, and so you decided to build it. Which is anyone in the room who's an entrepreneur has already made that decision, but for a large percentage of the population, that's not the reflex. Which is, oh, there's a need. Let me go build a solution. What about the second point you made, which is around making mistakes? How, across your career of those three companies, and we'll get to Tiger Connect, how have you thought about what you're calling failure in terms of the process of innovating and being an entrepreneur?
Yes, the mistakes you're going to make, it is never a straight line. People always look back and go, oh boy, that looked like it was pretty easy, you did that, and looked like it was a straight line. Every business that I've been involved with, I've made massive mistakes early on. But I think what really kind of separates you being able to turn something into a success from something that looks like it may not turn out so hot is this concept of resilience in your personality. You've got to be able to look at the problem, be resilient, and work with people that are much smarter than you around things that you could never possibly know. So I don't need to be able to write a line of code for our current company, and I can't write a line of code. Actually, in fact, if someone asked me to do a detailed spreadsheet for Excel on any company I've had, I can't do it. That's not. But I can hire someone from Harvard, a Baker scholar who works for me at the surgery center, and ask him, hey, Mike, can you do this? And actually, sometimes, surprisingly, he would even say, well, why do you need that information? So I think you will make mistakes. I think to have the right team around you so that it becomes much larger. It isn't 1 + 1 is 2. It becomes 1 + 1 is 3 or 4. And you kind of have this sort of larger mastermind, if you will, that surrounds your company.
So as a microcosm to the mistakes part, you mentioned 200 in your second company, 200 physician partners, which we also invest in services, and I can tell you that's a really big challenge. There's 65 ED physicians in my group. That's a challenge for our director. What about the people side of entrepreneurship, from going from your $50,000 investment to your first hire to your 200th physician partner, and the mistakes or the opportunities on interacting with them and then deciding who should be in the bus and who should not be on the bus?
Yeah, that's actually a very insightful question that very few times has someone actually asked me that. What I've learned from working with physicians in large groups together is that I'm not a professional, but I have become a semi-expert in group psychology. And you could be in a group of 20 physicians, or 20 people for that matter. If one person starts really going sideways, they can affect the entire milieu of the room. So for me, in those kinds of businesses where I have a lot of physician surgeon partners who are independently minded people, I was very mindful of what their personality was like, and sought out people who would sort of fit into the overall milieu of the business. And I have had situations where there are people who are very disruptive to the business, and gone to them and said, look, we're probably not a good fit for you to be with us, and worked out nicely for those people. But I think at the end of the day, people have to play well with each other, particularly physicians. It's probably helpful that I'm a surgeon myself, so I think if I was just a suit, if you will, I wouldn't be able to necessarily talk to some of those guys in the same way, or girls the same way that I did.
That's great. So let's go back to, before I interrupted you, to your device entrepreneurial time. You had said initially that one of your big areas of interest is efficiency, and that is what Tiger Connect is about once we get there. it's also a major investment theme for me in healthcare, which is trying to find ways of replacing inefficient, usually labor-driven processes with software or technology-enabled services. So let's just spend a couple minutes on what opportunities you found in the device space with respect to efficiency and how you innovated in a company format to solve those problems.
Yeah, so in the device space, I love orthopedic surgery, and I was doing a lot of design work. In 2005, when I sold the surgery center business, at that point I had a fair amount of money. So I had been selling products, and then decided, I had this really good idea for a knee system that you could do. It was a modular system. You could replace one aspect of the knee, combine it with another, or do the full thing with matched instruments and fewer number of instrument trays. And basically my mindset came from the outpatient surgery environment. It said, hey, most of these people that are having knee arthroplasties are healthy, but we're putting into a sick person's environment in a very expensive environment where they've got dietary services, all these types of things. So the company was focused on taking knee arthroplasty and bringing it into a more efficient outpatient environment with fewer number of steps, fewer number of instrument trays, and so forth. So with that company, there was a lot of mistakes that I think sort of came into play with that. Basically, my mindset was, hey, I already work with 200 surgeons in the surgery center business. Orthopedic surgeons are my people. If I have 50 orthopedic surgeons all using our components, it works out to a pretty good, high revenue number and so forth. The funding of that business, I ended up having an investor who was from a pharmaceutical background. He was the chairman of Teva Pharmaceuticals, also another physician. And his investment came into the company in 2008 with one caveat, and that was that we reverse merged and become a public company ourselves. So we did that in July of 2008, not exactly the best timing, but I learned a lot, and that was another huge mistake that we made. So we got sort of lumped into that kind of a picture, but it worked its way out, and then ultimately we sold that to the largest sports med company called Arthrex.
And they have your device now being deployed. Your instrument tray is deployed in their global commercial arm.
Yeah, all of Arthrex's implants were designed by Carter Medical.
And so Carter Medical was basically a play, not to oversimplify it, but taking a situation where you saw by modularizing the workflow, you could speed things up and simplify it, and still address all the patient needs you had.
Yeah, if you could take a patient and to me, patients should be kept out of the hospital. And if they're in a hospital, they should be moved to the hospital procession, if you will, in the most efficient way with alacrity. So knee patients, typically these recipients are very healthy people. They don't need to be put into hospitals. And if you can get out of the hospital, then it really is win-win. It's lower cost. It's better for the patient. They're not exposed to germs and so forth.
And that's another one where timing was on your side as more and more procedures in a specialty move from the hospital or to the outpatient setting. Well, let's dig into Tiger Connect. So let's start with the story of how the company was founded. So how did you guys come up with the idea? And give us the kind of 3 to 5 minute understanding of how you and Brad conceived of the idea and where you thought the beachhead for the company would be.
So 2010, I was in the midst of running the device company. The internet and communication around SMS messaging was really kind of on the rise. Medical records were going from paper to electronic. So we started talking quite a bit around how people text, how people are using Facebook, how essentially the default of the internet is permanent. And really kind of had this idea growing up watching Mission Impossible. Hey, Mr. Phelps was message, this table self-destruct in 5 minutes or 5 seconds. Maybe the default of our communications could be impermanence, and is there a way to create that digitally? So we had access to some very good engineers in Los Angeles, and initially set out to develop a messenger that was the core of it was ephemerality. Well, in order to do that, you have to have control of the message from the sender device to the receiver. It has to go to the data channel, and there's all kinds of encryption around that. Once we created that, at that point, it became a matter of looking at, okay, how do we make this into a business? You know, what are people going to need this for? Well, obviously, healthcare is one industry where privacy and control of information and the way you communicate it is of utmost importance. And physicians were increasingly texting more and more private health information. So, and there's laws around it called HIPAA. So, initially, the core thing for the company when we were going out in 2011 to sell the product, it was really more of a compliance sale, I would say, and going to organizations saying, hey, your folks are texting, here's a product that can, you know, very simply replace that, and it's encrypted. So that was really kind of how it started. Obviously, 6 years later, it's evolved into a completely different animal, but we can get into that.
So before we jump into where it is today, there was a timing component to the situation where you said mobility plus the HITECH Act, digitized medical records. Physicians were one of the quickest adopters of mobile technology for professional use, but they were running afoul of regulations regarding patient confidentiality and security of information. So there was a timing aspect to it. One question that I want to raise with respect to ephemerality, which is, what is your philosophical view on why communication in healthcare might be valuable from an ephemeral perspective? So why would doctors ever want their conversations to not be recorded for all time?
Yeah, so essentially, I think when you watch television or you hear about healthcare and the way people deliver healthcare, it's sort of like portrayed in this like super formal way where, you know, yes, doctor or nurse or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So in reality, things are much more casual than that. And there are things that go on with conversations that are centered around clinical care that you may not necessarily want to have a permanent record of. So there are, you know, a conversation, you're an emergency room doc. A patient comes in and they're just completely blitzed out of their mind on, you know, drugs, and they're belligerent and whatever they spend on you. All the things that I've seen. But if I come in,
You did it on TV.
I experienced it in LA County multiple times. But so I may come in and you may say something like, "Oh, this patient is a real, you know, cut cookie and whatever." Probably some of the choice words I would imagine you would say. But you may not necessarily want to have that on a permanent record type of basis. So that aspect of communication, the ephemerality is very important because you want to still preserve the way people naturally do communicate with medicine. There are some things that you want to opt into the permanence, which you can. But the core thing initially, from our vantage point, was preservation of that ephemerality and having some time limits that the sender could control or even recall with the identity physicians and nurses and people within the care team.
So when you guys founded Tiger Text at that point, how did you think about the way in which you would raise capital? Who did you decide would be, obviously they invested much later, but how did you decide what the pitch would be, and who did you decide would be the right partners initially to raise money from?
Yeah, so every company that I was involved with up until this one, we never really had former venture capital people. So in in our naivete at the time, we thought, well, probably $5 million, maybe $7 million, and a bunch of engineers because had a really good product and probably created a pretty decent company. So just initially went put my own money in, people that were close, a few other just angel type people that we knew. Well, 7 years and $80 million later, just the challenge of what it's been. But so shortly after we started really realizing, okay, the internet type of business is a much longer play than what we really sort of anticipated. Both Brad and I really didn't come from that tech background. Brad's a finance guy. So we started reaching out to folks in Silicon Valley and ended up with venture money that's just continuing to grow. And we've had some great partners, obviously.
But how did you decide, so with interest, whether it was scant or substantial, were there attributes to an investor that you thought were more valuable or less valuable, besides just the size of the checkbook when you thought about raising money?
Oh, absolutely. I think that having met with pretty much most all of the top tier Silicon Valley VCs, because the space happened to be, again, timing-wise, of interest to people. There are venture people who just want to write checks and drop in here and there, but don't necessarily add a lot of value. So one of the things that was very important for Brad and I was to look at the partners that we were going to bring into the company, or people that were interested and really were serious, and looked at it and said, okay, do they really understand what we're doing? Do they have some background in this? And are they, besides just writing a check and just being, sort of dumb money, if you will, are they going to add something to the business? So we were fairly selective on that kind of thing, and just you view yourself as a partner to us. The fact that you're still practicing emergency room doctor, when we have our meetings, your input is just extraordinarily valuable because you're in there real time and actually influence a lot of the roadmap and decision making of what we're doing. So that's hugely valuable for a startup company.
So, and back to the founding team, what are the criteria, now that you have all this experience, Andrew, for early employees? So you're pretty big now, but when you guys started off, what were the personality traits or capabilities you looked for in the technical leadership, in the marketing leadership, et cetera, where you said, this is the person we want to hire at this stage in the company?
Yeah, so every company goes through different phases, and the people that are right at one phase changes at another phase, and that's certainly the case for the startup company. So in the very early part, for us, what we found, and I believe it's the right thing, is you've got to have people that believe in the vision as strongly as you do and are willing to take that passion and really put their heart and soul into what they're doing with you and the company, because it is such a difficult thing to sometimes conceptualize something and bring it into reality where everything is working very well. And if you don't have that level of shared passion and common desire to make it right and be fluid with one another, it would be very difficult. So I like people that don't mind if I'm emailing them at 2 in the morning. They don't have to respond. Or you have an idea, you tell them something, it's like 10:30 at night, they don't answer the phone. It kind of takes that from my vantage point. And so you have to have a ability to sort of have a threshold of pain that you're willing to put into your company being successful. And I think that's super important, particularly at the early stage.
So So with the mission-driven kind of high-intensity person at the beginning who walks through walls, is there a phase when you're looking for people that are that create process, create order? What's the next phase of team and investor that you look for?
Yeah, so definitely as you kind of move forward, is exactly as you said, process, order. Because in the beginning, you have people doing so many different tasks that may not necessarily be their respective particular area of expertise. But as the company starts to mature, you have more engineers, more salespeople, bugs start coming up. You have to have a support team. You have to have a process. You end up having more customers. You have to have implementation. You have to have leadership for that. So you definitely do start to upgrade and change people and have their roles be far more specific than it is in the beginning. And then from an investor standpoint, the kind of investor who invests early on, I was talking to Saeed a little bit at the very beginning. If you're going to take it, if you're going to write a check that's a relatively small check, let's say $50,000, $200,000, because you believe in someone's idea, you're basically looking at the idea, but more importantly, you're probably looking at the person and hoping that the person is going to execute on this particular idea. The later stage investors are more risk averse. They want to see, oh, you've got some track record, you've got some traction. Yeah, we're willing to pay up for that lower risk. The valuation is obviously going to be higher. And it's a different kind of gambit for that kind of investor. So, and then even as you go further down the road, it becomes even kind of another version of that.
So let's move to Tiger Connect now and Tiger Flow. So if initially the company was positioned toward providing a priority channel of communication for physicians that was encrypted and compliant, what is Tiger Connect now? What is Tiger Flow? And what does it do, to go back to your initial theme, for health system efficiency?
And so just to kind of distill down what Tiger Connect is today, it's a workflow company. And what we do is we tether electronically all these different siloed aspects of digital information and route it to the various constituents that are involved in the care of a particular patient. So the information that's germane to making decisions to move the patient through a process, that's what we do, is we provide that kind of a system. I believe, because I've seen it now with so many institutions, that if you look at American healthcare and you say, you read these studies that people come out with, oh, America's number 20 in the world, and Denmark is much better to be sick than America. Like, I say bullshit to that. We have the best healthcare. If you've got a bad problem, you've got some strange autoimmune thing, you have cancer of some sort, and you can access the right treatment, America's where you want to be. It's a huge part of our economy, obviously. Roughly 18% of our GDP. We have plenty of money in the system, but our process is fundamentally broken. I have a friend who has an internal medicine practice. He's at Cedars-Sinai. There's 3 of them in the office. To this day, they still get over 15,000 faxes a year coming into their office. There's 2 million pages in place in American medicine today. Aside from drug dealers, I really don't know from the other organizations, people that are using pagers. So what Tiger Connect does is essentially take the way you operate in your consumer life and bring it into healthcare so that the patient experience is smoother, quicker. Like, if you can move a patient through an event very more rapidly and more efficiently, the cost is far less. So there is literally hundreds of billions of dollars to be saved. And we've seen this through studies that have been done with our own customers, just in bed transport time. You can see patient in the emergency room, the old paradigm of, hey, we're going to call bed transport, the patient's going to wait, then ultimately they get paged or whatever. Now, that's all part of the same care team. They're in the ER. That transport gets notified. And we've seen that it's the outer concentric circles of care that actually tend to really affect a lot of the process. It isn't just physicians and nurses. It's bringing in the lab, bringing in the radiology services, dietary. We have a customer in Pennsylvania, Geisinger. They brought all the dietary people onto the platform because people have varying dietary needs. So it really is just about just the efficiency of process, and we're making massive differences with our customers.
I'm clearly unbiased, but when you look at the platform now, Tiger Flow, Tiger Connect, it is a software version of the way communication between, now we call them providers, physician, nurses, and other individuals was before. I think timing also played a big role because during your and my generation of medicine, medical experience, we went from single provider to shift-based in almost every specialty, shift-based, which is shift-based and role-based communication. So instead of who cares where Dr. Mittendorf is, who's the red ER doctor on right now? Because they're responsible for bed 4, which is patient John Smith. Who's the nurse covering bed 4, not who's Betty or John covering bed 4. And I think the use of technology to something you guys have done really well to capture in technology what the natural flow of communication is in healthcare is important. And then the other part I think is important is that you've taken synchronous communication, which is really inefficient for most of what we do, to mostly 80% or so asynchronous, where I don't need the answer right now. I don't need to call you on a SpectraLink phone. I can text you or send you a picture or send you even a video now and ask you to respond in time to that. So given that you have this much broader, platform now, and I forget, I don't know how publicly, I want to step on your toes. How many health systems or hospitals are we in now? Are you in at Tiger Connect?
We're just, at this point, eclipsing 4,000 healthcare organizations, and we have about just close to about 300,000 paid subscribers on the platform. So pretty massive scale at this point, which we can get into another aspect of how that's actually benefiting and cross-pollinating information from varying organizations to each other.
Right, because you now have a big graph of healthcare providers because they're working at multiple institutions. You have information on them. You know how you don't know what they're texting or sending, but you have frequency of use and you have endpoints. Do you send more text to dermatology than I do, or more communications of some kind? How do you think about that data network effect right now at Tiger Connect?
It's huge. We invested quite a bit about 3 years ago in analytics. We have a whole team actually up here in Palo Alto that is just all they do is work on the analytics aspect of things. And what we see with that is you can see an organization where a patient is set up for discharge, and that process could take a day and a half. But you could then take that exact process and say, okay, go to another organization, say, hey, this is kind of what we're seeing you do. It's taking a day and a half. This organization does it like this, and their process is being reduced to about 8 hours. So by going into our customers and actually being a little bit more, well, not a little bit, a lot more consultative and prescriptive to varying pain points that they have, it's been hugely beneficial to them. Actually to the point where we have such confidence in it that we're willing to even go at risk with a customer on that. We can say, hey, your time for, when you order a consult, from the time it's ordered to the time it's done, we've had customers where that could be upwards of 23 hours. So if we can reduce that to, let's say, 6 hours or 8 hours, obviously the patient isn't sitting there languishing, waiting for someone to come and take care of them on this consult. So we can affect process in that way. When you affect process, you reduce time in the organization, and every minute that people are in the hospital costs a lot of money.
I think So, and that's actually, as you go from, say, a day and a half to 8 hours, one of the fundamental philosophic changes that I watched you all innovate around was this simple concept of taking a pull approach, which is I log into Epic, I'm an Epic user, I log into Epic to see if all the labs are back or see if radiology is done. Or there's a little blinker that says that all that's done, but I have to log in to a push workflow, push notification where if all labs are back or if radiology is done, since you're integrated with EMR, you can push and say, you don't have to tell me what the CT read is, we can say CT results are back, which prompts me to move the ball down the field the next 10 yards. Are there any generalizable lessons in terms of process improvement and the subsequent ROI that you guys have talked about before? What are the major lessons there in terms of efficiency improvement?
Well, I mean, essentially, if you can reduce time from a lot of healthcare is about just getting answers to very simple questions. So there's a lot of phone tag that goes on. So I'll give you a very relatable, easy thing for to understand. We have a physician at a hospital in Newport Beach, at Hoag Hospital, very well-known hospital, reads a lot of MRs. Well, if he's reading 70, 80 MRs a day, maybe there might be 8 or 9 that have critical information that he needs to transmit to the person who requested the study. The normal workflow prior was, I'm going to call the office, leave a message. Now, if it's an orthopedic surgeon, maybe the person's there, maybe they're at their kid's soccer game, then you call back. He may be in the room doing an arthrogram or whatever. So there's all this phone tag that goes on. So now you take it to the Tiger Connect workflow. That abnormal study is now pushed to the person. They get a priority alert. It shows up as a little red badge on their phone, has a different sound. The person can open it, see the report, see the abnormal image, and then communicate back to the person and say, I'm surprised by that. What do you think about the lymph nodes? And even to the point where even now we have VoIP involved where without even knowing that person's phone number, you can hit the telephone icon and actually call them through the VoIP aspect of it and say, tell me about this, tell me about that. So it just really has had massive impact across this whole efficiency of process.
Great. Well, so I want to talk about a couple final topics, 2 final topics. The first one is selling and implementing in health systems. So if you were to break down sales pitch approaches, and there's many ways to do this, in healthcare IT or in selling to health systems, there's the relationship sale, there's the compelling logic sale, hey, this just makes sense, and then there's the ROI data-driven sale, which I think you guys are at now. But how important and at what phase did showing evidence of, and I don't mean clinical trial, but evidence of value become in the selling process to health systems? And how was it to be involved? I know you were heavily involved, Andrew, in a number of the big system sales. How was it to be involved in those system sales, and what did those systems generalizably ask for of the company?
Yeah, so the sales side of things, this is probably for us what seems so obvious. Like, wow, why wouldn't everybody want to buy this? Like, this seems like this is a no-brainer. The cost of the product is a fraction of whatever EMR is. We can essentially guarantee an ROI. This is kind of a no-brainer. But with our particular product, what we've learned is that if you come in through the IT side of things, it's a much more challenging sale because IT looks at things very differently than the clinicians. So where we've sort of come down on this thing, and now as time has gone on, it's kind of moved more up to the C-level aspect of things because they're being pinched on their own earnings with hospitals. It's becoming far more difficult for them to remain profitable. So we talk about this sort of holy trinity, if you will, for a sale into a large system, and that's buy-in on the IT side. The IT people don't need another thing jammed into their system for them to have to now worry about. And so once you get them over the hurdle of understanding that this really isn't like an implementation of a very super complicated thing, it's quite easy, that's certainly helpful. clinician buy-in is critical. You must have physician leaders within an organization that actually will stand up and help to really ram it through and have people change their habits. We're as much in the change management business as we are in the tech business. And then obviously the C-level side of things also needs to understand, hey, we need this. Our process is fundamentally broken, and technology is really the way forward. So it's very much an educational process that we go through, and it doesn't end at the sale. We've got about a third of the company at this point is what goes on after the sale with customer success, implementation, going back into these organizations and looking at what they're doing and being prescriptive, as I was talking about earlier, around, hey, this is what we're seeing here, do this, do that. And that's a very big part of what the company's doing right now.
Great. So I have one last question for you, Andrew. And I'm going to give you, think about this while I'm asking you the question, but none of this was scripted before, so I did not ask him this question before this today, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So if you were to roll forward 10, 15, 20 years, and you were to think about 20 years ago when you were, maybe longer than that for you, but 20 years ago when we were training, and you were to think about, there were, I've gone through 3 Epic rollouts. I'm sure you've been through a bunch. I went from paper orders to electronic. There were fundamental changes there. If you were to think about the practice of medicine in 10 to 15 years, what are the 3 biggest fundamental shifts? Maybe, and not think broader than your specialty, that you'll expect to see. I mean, one would be laparoscopic surgery was one in surgery. It just took over and changed the landscape of how operating worked. Can you give me 3 examples, or even 2, of fundamental changes in the practice of medicine that will probably be a result of technology in the next 10 to 15 years?
Well, I would say, from my vantage point, a few things I see are going to change. I think biologic treatment of disease is, without question, going to have a massive impact on how we treat patients. A lot of the stuff we do to people, and it's in my specialty as orthopedic surgeon as well, is somewhat barbaric in my estimation. And there are more elegant things that we're now just at the very beginning scratching the surface of. And I think these types of things are going to be far more impactful on the way we treat patients. I think the other macro thing that's going to occur is a lot of things that people are getting treated for are going to go by the wayside. I think there's a lot of things that go on with treatment of patients that's way over. And I think as we start to get more data around artificial intelligence and these buzzwords that people throw around like machine learning, I actually do believe that we will start to reduce the way people actually approach healthcare. So in my practice as a tertiary referral type sports med person, I would see a lot of people that would play like 5 sets of tennis. They're like a 50-year-old person, and on a Sunday, then they come into the office Tuesday because their shoulder's sore. Well, that person should never come to a tertiary shoulder surgeon. Like, they are, in 95% of cases going to get better. So I think on the front side of healthcare, people will probably be more kept out of expensive treatments, but it's going to be driven by data. So there's a lot of wood to chop there, but it's going to happen. People are overtreated. I personally think in the United States, on any given day, at least 50% of surgery being done is unnecessary. And I know that's a bold statement, but I truly believe that. Great.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to interview you today, Andrew, and I hope you guys all enjoyed this conversation out there. I don't think we might not be around much longer today, but our contact information we'll leave with Plug and Play. I'm happy to follow up by email or by telephone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. Let's give another warm applause for Andrew and Mike. Thank you so much for taking your time here to share your knowledge with us. So we're going to get this going here. We're really excited. My name is Alex Tran. I'm a senior associate here at Plug and Play, and we're excited to be showcasing the startups that have completed batch 6 of our health program. So for this first startup, research suggests that 50 million patients suffer from complications after surgery each year. 1.5 million patients of those patients actually die from these complications. This next startup has a solution to help physicians predict these complications before surgery even happens. Please give a warm welcome for Kila Health.
Thanks, Alex. And thank you, Dr. Brooks, for setting us up nicely for this presentation. So my name is I'm Dr. Bor Chang, the CEO and co-founder of Kila Health. For centuries, the way we've practiced medicine is to treat patients when they're sick. But 2 years ago, a team of Duke surgeons, statisticians, and engineers asked ourselves, what if we could flip that paradigm around? What if we can identify who our sickest patients would be and be able to prevent them from becoming sicker? This is what Kila Health does in surgery. So there are 51 million patients who get surgeries every single year, and 15% of them on average result in complications. So millions of patients in the US are suffering complications every year, yet we know that half of them are avoidable. And so the US is spending $45 billion every year on avoidable complications alone. Kila Health uses machine learning to be able to predict whether a surgical complication will happen before it happens. And then we allow surgeons to intervene with the best practice, high-impact interventions that are suited for that particular patient. Over time, as we learn which patients benefit the most from which interventions, we're able to disseminate these best practice guidelines to other surgeons in the hospital and to other hospitals. Our team is an interdisciplinary mix of surgeons, clinicians, leaders in the healthcare space, and broader surgical network. We have experts in applied machine learning and entrepreneurs with a record of success. We are a team uniquely positioned to build this solution. So the way it works is we have a group of patients who comes to us, the hospital, with a mixed bag of high and low risk. And we don't do a good job of knowing who's who. So we tend to blanket the same interventions to all of our patients, essentially treating the average patient. This is a low efficiency, high cost model. But as we're moving to an era of precision medicine, Kila Health can accurately risk stratify our low risk patients from our high risk patients, reducing many of the unnecessary interventions we're doing for our low-risk patients and targeting our high-impact interventions to those patients we're most worried about. So this creates a paradigm of tailoring treatment plans, reducing costs up front, and improving patient outcomes down the line. And we're integrated right within the electronic health record, right within the surgeon's workflow. So starting from the initial consult through surgery to the time of discharge, we can be a guide along the entire patient surgical journey. So we've gotten a lot of traction from hospital systems, from accelerators and investors. Our pre-seed round is currently open, and we're aiming to close that round in the next few weeks. And we're interested in talking to investors who are excited about this mission and eager to join our team. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, everyone. How many of you guys were a big fan of tattoos at a point in time of your life? I cannot find anything that inspired me to keep one on me permanently. But this next startup has a tattoo wearable that can be your skin's next best friend. Please welcome Logic Inc.
Hi, they're not permanent, by the way, just to clarify. So I'm Carlos. I'm one of the founders and CEO of Logic Inc. We make programmable tattoo-like devices that visually transform and shape a color to alert you of a condition of interest in your body, like hydration levels, or in the environment, like pollution levels around you, or to alert you when you had enough sun for the day. In fact, that is our first product to market. We're targeting people concerned about UV overexposure. In the US alone, according to Data Monitor, that's 89 million people. And here are two examples of why people care. On the left, skin cancer. You may know that 1 in 5 Americans will develop skin cancer in their lifetime, according to the Skin Cancer Foundation. Also, according to the Skin Cancer Foundation, 90% of all skin aging is due to UV rays. That's on the right. So here's a response to that problem. This is our promo video. I don't know if you can lower the volume, please. Okay, thanks. So it's applied like a temporary tattoo. And we're launching today, by the way. So we're seeing a 6.7% purchase conversion rate right now. Seeing a sale every 2 minutes in my phone, which is exciting for us. And you can see that it has an inner ring, and that inner ring shows you the clear indication of UV, indicates from white people based on that intensity. And then there's an outer ring as well. The outer ring acts like a little clock. So when it reaches the end, it shows you had enough sun for the day. You can also apply sunscreen on it, so it glows on that clock and lets you stay longer in the sun. Enjoy, keep an eye on the sun. So we're super focused on UV. And UV is also helping us develop and validate a platform. Before we decided to focus on UV, we explored a range of sensors. In fact, the conditions that one can sense from your sweat, from volatiles that emanate from your skin, from your skin microbiome, or from the environment are frankly limitless. The applications are limitless. And we're sent to conquer that space, starting with UV. Here's a collage of videos of some of that work we did in the past. You can see on the top left a small molecule sensor. It's ethanol, alcohol, so it detects below, above DUI level. That work was essentially validated by NIH. That means that some scientists at NIH had to get drunk, and so did we for research purposes. And on the top right, you can see a pollution sensor, PM2.5. Okay, so for some of you, you may recognize that term. It's very common in Asia. And it's very important. It's kind of unique to see that we have a wearable electronic screen that can tell you pollution levels around you. I'm going to skip the rest, but I'm happy to talk more about it offline. In general, our business model is pretty simple. B2C scaffolded by B2B, by co-branded B2B partnerships. Again, we're seeing a very high conversion rate. If we can scale those conversion models, we're aiming to have 3 million by the end of next year. Probably more if we can secure important B2B partnerships, and we're in the process of doing that. We have the attention of most sunscreen brands with us. You can imagine, right? This induces consumption of sunscreen. Some of our investors include Peter Thiel, with his early stage fund, Breakout Labs, and we're currently raising a note for up to $1 million, no cap of $10 million, 20% discount. Again, this is our team. My colleague is Claire over there. We're happy to talk to you more at the end of this session about the future of wearables. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Carlos. Great presentation. I'm sure I'll give out a couple of samples if you guys come up to them with some pilot deals. So the next startup, they're currently utilizing CRISPR technology to create the ultimate home testing script experience for biosensing, disease detection, and diagnostics. Please welcome Mammoth Biosciences.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. I'm excited to chat with you about Mammoth Biosciences. So we're creating the CRISPR platform for biosensing and diagnostics. Now, I'm sure for anyone that's heard about CRISPR before, you've probably heard about it in the terms of gene editing. My CRISPR magazine covers here. It's like engineering the human race, editing humanity, etc. This is the typical framework people think about CRISPR proteins in. And everyone's heard about this. It's been on the cover of Wired and a million other magazines. But what we're excited about at Mammoth Biosciences, and what you probably haven't heard about, is that CRISPR is about to do the same thing to diagnostics that it did to therapeutics. So back in 2012, when Cas9 really came onto the scene, I'm moving now. Okay. Cool. So diagnostics is really stuck in technologies that were originally invented in the 70s and 80s. And what we're using at Mammoth is these new proteins. So Cas9 was discovered for the kind of gene editing applications in 2012, and there's these new CRISPR proteins that were just discovered in the last year by one of the company's co-founders, Jennifer Doudna, that really enable this kind of diagnostic use case of CRISPR. So what are we actually building? What we're building is essentially a kind of universal pregnancy test, where instead of just detecting hormones for pregnancy, we can essentially program these paper strips to detect DNA and RNA down to a single base pair level. So what would happen is you would add your sample to our paper strip, and within less than an hour, there would be a color change to tell you whether or not that DNA or RNA was detected or whether a certain genotype was present. And you can automatically read and upload these results with a smartphone app. So how does this actually work, since most people think about CRISPR for gene editing? Well, when you have a sample that's mixed together with a lot of different proteins and nucleic acids, and we say we want to detect the blue target molecules, well, what we do is we program the CRISPR protein with what's called an RNA guide, and that tells us that the CRISPR protein should find that specific target. And then when it finds it, it actually has this really interesting property where it will then cleave many orders of magnitude of cleavage reporters to then release the color. And I'm happy to talk about this more offline for anyone that's interested. So we've already used this in a clinical setting where we have an in vitro diagnostic for HPV. We benchmarked against PCR. You can see it over there on the right. And not only does it detect the HPV, but it actually can tell you the strain, which has lots of implications for things like cancer. That's really exciting for us. And we're doing this in extreme high throughput. So we're not just interested in HPV. We really are building a platform for all these different diseases that are DNA and RNA based. Anything from HPV, infectious disease, cancer, genotyping, etc. So right now we're really focused on hiring as many people as we can to scale up the platform. In particular, we're really interested in working with partners who have awesome biomarkers, and we're looking for this kind of electronics-free, rapid, extremely affordable detection platform that's very versatile. And I'm happy to chat with anyone after that's interested. Our website's mammothbiosci.com, and we're building the CRISPR platform for diagnostics. Thanks.
Thank you, Trevor. If you guys have time, please visit him at his demo table. There's plenty to talk about there and lots of potential. So this next startup is a very special treat for you guys. They came all the way from London and have signed deals with some of the biggest names in the industry, such as Tencent, J&J, Ping An Insurance, and more. Please give a warm welcome to MeadowPad.
Hi there, thanks for having me. My name is Neil Weiss. I work from a company called MeadowPad based out of London. We just opened here in Sunnyvale in Silicon Valley and opening in the New York Genome Center with Johnson & Johnson next week. So this is the problem that we're trying to address. For chronic disease patients in between hospital visits, there's a data abyss. This will be for 3 months at a time. What we've done is built a solution that effectively connects individuals to their clinical teams. We have a bank of different data collection modules that a clinician can simply choose as the most informative data points from that patient when he's outside of the hospital. Some of them are clinically validated tests, like a 6-minute walk test that you can do at home, or patient-reported outcome measures, experience measures, or other cognitive function tests, perhaps. All the information gets nicely distilled and sent to the clinical team's dashboard to be viewed by a clinical nursing specialist, anything that will effectively enable hospitals to keep patients outside longer, perhaps, or call them in before a complication happens based on the information that we're providing. Data can come from anywhere, really. We have a bank of different modules in the app itself. It can also come passively through an integrated wearable device. And we can also offer a lot of educational content and self-assessment and screening tools. We now cover about 30 different disease indications. The focus is really on chronic diseases, also orphan and rare disorders where the therapeutic costs are very high. After having deployed this in all of London's teaching and research hospitals, we've now got significant interest from pharmaceutical companies who we work with extensively. Also, population health at the government level recently signed a partnership with the Crown Prince and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, also Johnson & Johnson and SAP to deliver on the 2030 Saudi vision. We really started to get a lot of traction once we partnered with Apple a couple of years ago. They helped us refine the integrity of the solution and also helped on the business development and sales initiatives. Here's an example of what we do in pulmonary arterial hypertension. We can actually now flag a patient when they're at risk of a exacerbation event, call them in earlier before it's too late. I guess what we're moving towards now is actually realizing that because we have a fair bit of penetration into different disease areas, we have third parties now approaching us to deploy their Connect Wire platform as a sort of platform play. We can then take this information and subject it to our analytics platform. We've got a partnership with Tencent, and we're building an AI lab in London to look at some of this healthcare data to predict things before they happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Neil. So about 20 to 30% of prescriptions prescribed are never filled. 50% of prescriptions prescribed for chronic illness diseases are not taken as follow. This is a $289 billion problem today. The next startup is here to help change that. Please welcome Well.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here instead of at the Warriors Parade. Well, what we do is we help patients do the things that they rationally know they should. And the reason we do this comes back to my family. This is my Auntie Amy. I'm actually staying with her this week. Every single pill, she's been a diabetic for 20 years, every single pill as soon as we get home from dinner, she takes her pills, she checks her glucose readings. She's had no complications with her disease state over these past 20 years or so. Her brother, my Uncle Roy, on the other hand, was very different. No matter what we tried as a family, we just couldn't get him on track. We couldn't get him taking his medications. No matter if we bugged him, if we called his doctor, if we enrolled him into programs, nothing worked. He ended up having much worse outcomes on dialysis for a number of years, got a kidney transplant, and passed away last year after having a massive stroke. So you have these two individuals with the same disease state, the same diagnosis, the same upbringing, and the same genetics, but massively different outcomes just based on the behaviors that they do every day. So we started this company to help half of the patients out there that are just like Uncle Roy, that don't take their medications as prescribed, they don't track their methods, and they don't hit their goals. And we apply this behavioral economics lens to this problem. Where Uncle Roy rationally knows what he should do, he should take his medications, he knows it's good for him, he even intends to do it every day, but doesn't end up doing it because it isn't motivating. Even though he knows it's going to help him down the road, when he takes it right now, he feels no different right now. So this is a problem called present bias by behavioral economists. And when you look at all the other approaches that have been tried in the past to solve this problem, none understand this present bias issue and therefore don't get good results. So we give that tangible immediate gratification to get those results. We pay them to take his pills. Sounds simple. It's actually extremely complicated. Here's a quick demo of how you do it. We endow projects up front. We say, here's $50 just to download the app. Every day, all you have to do is step on your scale in the morning for your congestive heart failure patient to avoid losing $2 of those dollars. People are twice as motivated by the potential loss of money and potential gain. As soon as we get that data, we give them this great job stepping on your scale, immediate feedback to help form a habit. Now, it's about 30 minutes later, time to take his medication. Same exact interaction. Take your meds now to avoid losing those $2. He's able to simply swipe on that push notification, brings him right to the app. He snaps a photo and pulls in his hand. And again, he gets all immediate feedback. Great job. You kept your $2 for the day. And in this case, he happened to hit a streak of 20 in a row, which unlocks an intrinsic motivator, which is high five from his grandson to reinforce the extrinsic motivator of the money. So this is working extremely well across our population, even when we select the previously non-adherent, very high risk Medicaid, Medicare populations. Across all of them, we consistently get 89% average adherence versus that baseline of 50%. So we're really excited because we're scaling up quickly. Over the course of the past year or so, we've launched with all these new partners, and actually 2 of our biggest customers are actually leading our current round of financing. And with that, thank you very much. I'll be around all day if you want to talk more.
Thank you very much, Matt. If you guys are looking for an on-demand career, visit Matt to get paid for taking your medications on time. So last month, an article was released that the next startup is partnering up with gold medalist Michael Phelps to run a national TV campaign to promote its online platform of 2,000. Please welcome Talkspace.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Well, in light of last week's occurrences, I want to say that it's never too late to ask for help. Behavioral health therapy is not just for the rich and famous or the severely mentally ill. It's for people who are trying to tackle their anxiety, get past their insomnia, manage their crazy stressful life, and if you're feeling depressed, to let you know that you're not alone. In fact, over 300 million people have depression. It's now the #1 illness and disability worldwide. 1 in 4 individuals actually will experience a mental health occurrence in any given year. The sad part is, so few people actually do anything about it. Why? Well, they're embarrassed. Let's just say it. They're busy, they think it costs too much, and if they can find a therapist that they can connect to or like, it takes 3 weeks. They say, forget it, I'm too busy. Well, Talkspace eliminates and gets rid of all of those barriers. We offer online, asynchronous, messaging-based therapy at the touch of a button. We're like the WhatsApp for behavioral health therapy. Therapy is delivered through your telephone, your smartphone, your computer, your tablet, and it's asynchronous messaging, so you can text, audio, or video message as often as you like. That's the cool thing. I have multiple options. The smart thing about it is we have a matching process with our proprietary algorithm that will identify the top 3 therapists to match you with the condition that you've come in for. I then can view the therapist's expertise, when they're available, their intro video, and I'm in the driver's seat and I'll get to choose who I get to work with. I have options. For those employers in the audience, the cool thing is we are getting incredible results, and that's what matters, right? 36% increase in productivity after being on the Talkspace platform, impressive. 39% activity outside of work. So what's happening is good for me in and out of work, and I'm missing less than 50% fewer hours. There's the ROI. We are here to help anybody. Please stop by and see me. We want to help your employees, your members, your students live well. #therapy for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deborah. This next startup helps find treatment plans catered to your personalized cancer case through artificial intelligence and genetics. Please welcome Mendel.ai.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kareem. I was actually a physician a few years ago, and I was able to Google for a restaurant, but I wasn't able to search my electronic medical records for all stage 4 cancer patients. So we started Mendel, which is basically an artificial intelligence that helps us organize the healthcare data. 90% of the clinical data that you have in your medical records away from the billing are actually not queryable or searchable. The reason is mostly they are scanned documents. You're moving like a cancer patient moving from one hospital to the other, gets all the documents faxed. The other is mostly free text, where the doctor is writing their own notes. And if a doctor puts MM, it can be an acronym for multiple myeloma, it can be an acronym for millimeters. So if you want to run a search and try to find all multiple myeloma patients, you can get a 3-millimeter biopsy. This has a big implications because basically pharma cannot answer questions like, can you tell me how my drug is performing versus the current standard of care? Can we search the medical records for the outcomes of these patients versus patients on another drug? Can you actually tell me all the patients in this hospital who are eligible for a clinical trial? Those simple questions you cannot really answer, and you'll be surprised. Only 5% of clinical trials are recruiting. We don't actually know what drugs work outside clinical trials. And hence, people started using humans to curate this data and structure. And this became like the biggest health innovation lately, is how can you structure health data using human curators. It's a very lengthy process, and what we try to do is we try to replace it with an AI. And the first process that we wanted to do is how can we look at a scanned document and basically make sense out of it. A lot of people would think a regular OCR system or an offshot solution would do it, but it cannot. It actually would get one wrong word in every 4 words. What we did is we were able to build the first medically specific OCR system that is able to reach one wrong word in every 4, which is basically around 90% accuracy. We also have, think of it as a search engine that can look at the documents and understand what you really need versus what your keywords are. It's more of a semantic search. This is also EMR agnostic, meaning we install a hardware behind the firewall in the hospital, and this hardware allows us to access the medical records and give some kind of user interface for the physician and for the nurse to be able to serve their own medical records. Running out of time, so our business model is basically an exchange. We offer our services for free to the hospital, and in return, we connect them to pharma companies looking for either comparative effectiveness studies or actually trying to recruit patients. We also help pharma companies decide which sites they should select for their own trials. And yeah, thank you. Sorry, no, not that.
Thank you. So, for as long as I've known, physical therapy has been limited within the walls of your own practice. Today, virtual reality brings physical therapy in the comfort of your own home. Please welcome VR Health.
Can you hear me? Excellent. 4 years ago, I started feeling pain in my right hand. After a while, the pain grew stronger. I couldn't sleep at night without painkillers, and my breaking point was that I couldn't pick up my 2-year-old daughter. I was diagnosed as suffering from cervical disc herniation due to the active flight. I'm a former F-16 pilot in the Israeli Air Force. And during my own rehab process, I discovered that any healthcare system is suffering from all those major flaws. And we believe that VR is the solution. And we believe that VR is the solution because of 3 major elements. The first one, no one want to be in a rehab center. No one want to be in a hospital. You're putting the VR headset on, you're somewhere else. The second element is once you put the VR headset on, you become part of that computer-generated environment. Once you're an element in that environment, we can quantify everything that you do inside that environment. And the third part is that you don't have to be in the rehab center. You could do everything remotely. And that's what the company is all about. We are developing virtual reality treatment and assessment rooms or portals. And basically the concept is the same. We are creating a virtual reality environment. We are measuring the interaction of the user with that environment, capture all the data, analyze it, and provide insights for providers, payers, and the user themselves. And that's basically how our platform is structured. We have medical applications, we have wellness applications, by the way, not just physical therapy. We also have cognitive applications for patients that experience stroke or concussion, and even pain management applications for different use cases and for different unpleasant surroundings where VR is a force multiplier. As far as we know, we are the only company out there, and you are more than welcome to check the FDA website. The only company, the only VR company that is operating as a certified medical device company, including ISO 13485, all the documentation and the quality assurance. Maybe our biggest IT asset is the data. So every time someone is using our app, we are generating a snapshot about his current status. By capturing those snapshots, you can now compare between
customers or for your user, we have a station back there. You are more than welcome to come and see us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. So research shows that at least 40% of outdoor workers show up to work dehydrated. This next startup is here to help prevent work injuries from happening through its continuous monitoring patch. Please welcome Kenzen.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Tim McDonald. I'm the CEO of Kenzen, early detection system for personal health. A little background on the company. Started in 2014, 22 employees split between our R&D team in Zurich, Switzerland, and our headquarters here in San Francisco, and actually now a little over $8 million in funding. Initial areas of focus are heat stress, dehydration, and then potassium as a measure focused on certain chronic diseases. And the platform is really an end-to-end solution. I'll talk more about the device itself. It is a wearable, but also we have a cloud-based machine learning backend where the models run and provide the predictive insights back to a smartphone application or a team dashboard in the case of industrial workers or caregivers. We're focused on using sweat and analyzing the biomarkers in sweat in real time. The first three that we're focused on are sodium, potassium, and pH, but there's a rich set of biomarkers available in sweat that we have a roadmap to address in the coming years. The rechargeable monitor itself actually has 7 sensors that look at things like heart rate, perspiration, loss, iron measurements, and so forth, and then it attaches to a disposable patch. And the patch is where the sweat chemistry is actually spotted, and this is what allows us to do the biomarker analysis. What's unique about this platform architecture is we can spot the chemistry for different biomarkers, so we can formulate the patch based on the condition that we're looking to initially monitor. The company started in 2014. Initial funding was through some Swiss research innovation grants of $1.1 million. One of TechCrunch, Athlete of the Future, competition sponsored by the NFL, so significant interest among professional athletics, including the 49ers as an investor. Winner of Google Demo Day in London in May, and some good press coverage here in the Cleveland Clinic. Here's the Plug and Play, and also part of the Cleveland Clinic program that Plug and Play is sponsoring. And our first pilot is live in the industrial space, which is a solution called Predictive Workforce Safety. And the way this works is it notifies the worker and a safety supervisor if a condition requires intervention or the worker is becoming dehydrated or overheated and therefore to take a break. They can record the action and ensure that the OSHA guidelines are being adhered to. At the same time, we can inform the safety supervisor on the site that they have a worker who is dehydrated, overheated, and requires some intervention. Really focus on preventing injury. Our strategy is to start in industrial to get sweat, but then focus on developing the capabilities in the clinical market, starting initially with congestive heart failure and end-stage renal disease, particularly because of the opportunity to apply potassium focused on those diseases. The clinical solution really will be on informing the care journey based on the data that we can drive, both from a biomarker analysis and our rechargeable monitor. A diverse team, as I said, spread between our headquarters here in San Francisco and our R&D facility in Zurich. And moving into a Series A, $13 million Series A that we're just kicking off the process. So here in the back, and would welcome me with any interested parties later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. All right. This will be the last startup before our break, the first half. So this startup has a mobile application that can provide you data on your body fat, your visceral fat, abdomen volume, or hip-to-waist ratio in under 30 seconds. Please welcome Select Research.
Good afternoon. I'm here to talk about Body Volume Indicator. It's the world's first app that you can actually use to measure your body composition. It doesn't need any hardware. You've actually got it on your phone as you're sitting there in the audience and you want to download it. It's unique, and the reason I'm working and doing this is because I left a career working with large corporates with one of a good friend of mine, Richard Barnes, who developed the concept and needed some help in bringing it to the market to help solve the problems on BMI. BMI has been around 183 years. And if you're wondering why there's a little picture up there, you can probably guess it. Those two guys have shared the same BMI for the last 30 years. So I kind of rest my case. When it comes to the solution, well, we were delighted when we launched BVI Pro last autumn that Business Insider had made a video. And I'm just going to play this to you. Sorry about that. We've worked with the Mayo Clinic for over 10 years. Over the contract, within that contract, they've helped us build the algorithm, and we use their MRI data. We have BVI covered, it's patented in the US and in each European country. Business model is straightforward. We have an API for corporate use, and that's sold under license. You can also download an app, you can buy in batches or subscribe to BVI Pro on iOS. Use case, we've got a few. In fact, I'm going to announce today a new one, which is going to be in the public eye tomorrow. We are measuring, using our software, the UK nation for their shape and size. It's backed by the UK government, and we're working with 6 international retailers. BVI over time will replace BMI. Quote from the Mayo Clinic. Finally, thank you for listening. We are moving into our first A round, and we're looking for additional corporate cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Let's give one more loud round of applause for the first half of the health startup presenting. Did an amazing job. So, 2 reminders for you guys before we go into our 20-minute break. Yes, you got to be back here by 3 p.m. Stay on time. But the first reminder is to please, if you're a corporate partner, vote for the startups. There's an application on the back of your name tags. There's a link where you can download that app. Your votes will go towards the winner of today's event. And the second reminder is if you're looking to set up private meetings, please download Brella. I believe our code is summer 2018, or it's located in the front registration as well, if I'm mistaken. But thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you guys on the second half.
We're going to go ahead and get started with the second half. My name is Meta Amidi, and I oversee our healthcare program here globally. It's really exciting to be here today at a different venue. I think everyone's been to Plug and Play in Sunnyvale, where we have been in the past, but it's exciting to have everyone here and see so many familiar faces. Just wanted to give a quick update. We actually just came back from Munich last Friday, where we kicked off our official partnership with Roche Diagnostics, where we'll be running a digital health program in addition to InsurTech and retail. We actually announced last week as well that we'll be making Munich our European headquarters, and we got a lot of buzz and interest in Munich, but for anyone else here that's interested in Bavaria, that was very positive and well received last week. We are actively looking for real estate as well in Munich. So if anyone has any leads out there, we looked at a beautiful space called Balloon, and hopefully we'll be setting up our HQ there in the fall. As well, we will be in Cleveland for our Cleveland Expo. So very similar format to this session, very provider focused. So Cleveland Clinic, University Hospitals, Jumpstart, Albert Einstein are the partners out there. We'll have 12 startups pitching there that are in the batch one. And in that program, Cleveland Clinic, and I don't know if I can say this publicly, but I'll say it now and we can erase it later. But they've committed to about 10 pilots out of the 12 startups. And so we'll have a clinical champion from Cleveland Clinic and the startups kind of presenting the results over the past 3 months. So if anyone's interested, please sign up for that with the promo code NETAVIP. You can look up the events on the website. What else are interesting updates to share while more people come back in before the next startup goes up? We shared some of the exciting investments. You'll actually hear from some of the latest portfolio companies in the second half at the end. If you have any exciting investment opportunities for Plug and Play, we typically are pre-seed to Series A investors. We're investing anywhere from $25K to $500,000. We don't lead on investments, but we like to bring kind of the strategic money to really help these startups, not just with the funding, but with the connections. And we really take your feedback as far as our corporate partners and corporations out there as part of our due diligence process. And with that, I think I've covered all the updates I have. Thank you so much for listening, and I will hand it back to Kim. Thank you.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, for the second half of pitches this afternoon. My name is Kim Kruger, and I'm a venture associate here at Plug and Play. So first up to lead us in this second session, we have Adam from MindCB. And MindCB is building an automated data scientist. I think we can all use that. Let's welcome Adam.
Hello. Thank you. My name is Adam Carrigan, and I am the co-founder of MindCB. And at MindCB, we are building an automated data scientist for businesses that currently just can't get access to one. Because hiring a data scientist is a pain. I can point to exorbitant salaries like this, growth like this, and then the inevitable shortfall like this. And then, of course, there are article after article after article. But the reality is that hiring a data scientist is a pain for most businesses. It's not impossible. Many find it exorbitantly expensive. Some, like the internal capabilities to be able to manage the data science team, and many more don't need a full-time data scientist. Now, our system already automates over 60% of the work of the data scientist, and we integrate with a business's existing system with ease. Now, from a customer perspective, it's extremely easy to just create an account, submit a project for review, they get a cost, time, and accuracy estimate, and if we fail to deliver, well, then it's free. So we enable businesses to ask one-off questions, or for a monthly recurring fee, they can ask that question as many times as they like inside their own system. This means that the more data they add to the system, the better the predictions become. So a data scientist normally takes 6 weeks and costs $14,000 to complete a project. We can complete that project in 3 times as fast and in under $1,000. Now, we've got customers paying for this service and this software already. Many are in the healthcare sector and health insurance sector. So how can we do this? Well, as I mentioned, we've built an internal tool that automates a very large chunk of the data science process, but we also have a top data science team that is able to assist them as well. So with this combination, we're able to do it much quicker and much more cost effectively than any of the competition. So we started, we automated about 10% of the process, and today, as I mentioned, we're over 60%. Within the next 2 years, we plan to automate over 85%, moving to a SaaS-based self-service platform. I mean, that costs have come down significantly from $1,000 per customer to under $300 and continue to come down. The market is enormous. Predictive analytics is expected to be worth $15 billion by 2025, and our average customer value per year is about $9,000, and with 120,000 businesses in that market, that's worth about $1.1 billion. We have an amazing team. There's myself. I'm a University of Cambridge graduate, and I've worked in consulting for Deloitte for a number of years. My co-founder, Jorge, is a deep learning expert. He's a visiting fellow at UC Berkeley, and he has scaled a number of businesses from a few thousand users to a few million users, so you're in good hands. So my name's Adam Callaghan. I have an amazing demo to show you. I've got a stand out the back, so please come and have a look. We're also about to close a small round, so if you're interested in investing, please come and find me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adam. Next up, we have MyMe, which is a digital health coaching platform that combines data modeling and symptom tracking to reverse the symptoms of chronic autoimmune diseases in a 16-week program. Let's welcome that up from MyMe.
Hi, so I'm Mette. I'm from Legoland, also known as Denmark. This started out as a very personal journey. After 10 years of being sick, my doctor's team told me that I wasn't going to die in the immediate future, and that they were happy with my numbers. As an economist, that didn't fly, and I started meticulously tracking everything I did. In 16 months, I was able to normalize my blood work, reverse 6 autoimmune conditions, and I've been dropping symptom-free for 7 years. So immune dysregulation is when the immune system, who's supposed to phase outwards, gets confused and attacks itself. Today we largely depend on drugs to manage these conditions. These drugs are expensive, ineffective, and can lead to debilitating side effects, including organ failure. And it doesn't matter who you are or if you have $50 million in the bank. The healthcare system is lacking tools to identify the root causes of these autoimmune conditions. The market size is, we have 24 million Americans who's costing $120 billion. And we're talking about an autoimmune epidemic. So 100 million have what we call elevated AME or pre-autoimmune conditions. High-level intervention is a patient app, algorithms, and a dashboard that allow to guide the coaches. The digital therapeutics protocol is detecting non-obvious triggers for the symptoms. Where Virtual Health is applying a known protocol, in this case, ketogenic diet, we don't believe in a one-size-fits-all, and we're looking for unknown causality. What took me 16 months, we can now do in 16 weeks. So can digital therapeutics really be as good as drugs? We believe so, and our data backs it. Our initial lupus case for enchilada cost in excess of $50 million. Great. Enchilada is about $50,000 a year annually, and after a 4-month intervention, had lowered that number to 1,000. She got off all of her drugs except one maintenance drug. We then went on to replicate this in a lupus beta trial, and all 18 improved their quality of life. We are now doing randomized control studies with institutions like Weill Cornell, and we are doing payer economic trials to quantify the metrics. Digital therapeutics is unknown in the preventative healthcare space. But where Omada is taking mostly healthy patients and keeping them healthy, we are at the opposite end of the spectrum. We are taking very sick patients who's very expensive and reversing the cost. So in a shared savings model, the benefit of reversing costs is very clear. So the business, we're going after lupus as an initial vector, but if we take 5% of the market as autoimmunity, it's $3.6 billion. Needless to say, we have an awesome team of proven entrepreneurs. Between us, we've built 8 products, or we've built 8 companies and taken 8 products to market. We've raised a friends and family, and we'll be raising this fall when our randomized controlled trials come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. All right, next up we have Pavan from RX Health. RX Health's RX Universe platform is an enterprise-level digital medicine delivery system that integrates directly into the EMR to allow providers and their care teams to prescribe evidence-based digital therapies. Let's welcome Pavan to the stage.
Hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Pavan Chowdhury. I'm the Vice President of Corporate Development for RX.Health. As Ken mentioned, we're a spin-off from Mount Sinai Health System, enabling physicians to prescribe digital medicine. So the problem that we're really looking to solve is as hospitals are becoming payers, they're completely unprepared for value-based care. 78% of hospitals last year faced readmission penalties, and 50% of them are going to miss bundled payments. That's putting around $100 million at risk per hospital each year, just because hospitals can't engage their patients. But there's an exponential growth in digital health. I mean, you saw MindMe, a digital therapeutic, but you don't see that up on that market map. You may not see your startup or your portfolio company here. It's because there's over 318,000 health, wellness, and fitness apps on the marketplace right now. And just today alone, there's going to be 200 more added. So there's a problem with fragmentation, and there's a problem with plenty. There's no distribution vehicle to get the apps, to get the wearables, to get this data to make any meaningful impact. Despite 86% of patients and providers wanting to adopt digital technologies, only 2% of patients are actually using it. So our goal is to provide a singular platform for digital transformation of risk-bearing entities. We want to do everything an EHR can't do. An EHR was great for fee-for-service, but we want to be easily accessible. Transform a health system within 90 days, and we want to provide a simple, singular workflow. How does this all work? So there's a point-of-care prescription that's EMR integrated that allows a physician to prescribe the MindMe app to lupus patients. But we want to augment that prescription. So not only does the patient get a text message on their cell phone that says, your digital prescription link is here, directs them straight into the App Store to download it, we've integrated with these apps to bring that data back. And we can augment it with health education videos, surveys, EPROs. So this is our process. We've curated the best apps, we bundle them together with complementary technologies, we prescribe them to patients, and then we constantly adapt that digital care plan. We've had great media coverage to date, but what we really pride ourselves on is our clinical validation. So we've done a quality improvement trial that showed a 50% readmission rate reduction in CHF patients, and that was presented at the American College of Cardiology. We've also done trials in IBD, 2-year NIH-sponsored randomized controlled trial, and we've done a usability test on our own platform to show that our platform is just as easy to use as an iPhone. So this is our trajectory so far. We're at the seed stage, and these are enterprise-wide live clients, Mount Sinai Health System, Yale New Haven Health, and we have a leading partnership with a professional society. We were just selected to actually run a trial for 4,000 patients at 75 sites. This is our all-star team. Dr. Ashish Trade is the Chief Innovation Engagement Officer at Sinai. And if you're a risk-bearing entity looking to adopt digital transformation and an investor looking to unify this space, please reach out. We're the platform for value-based healthcare. Thank you.
Thanks, Pavan. All right. Next up, we have John from Triage, which is already an award-winning pre-hospital care coordination and communication platform. It sends real-time patient data and GPS-tagged ETAs of incoming ambulances to the hospitals they're going to. So that reduces the need for phone and radio communication and improves that care handoff. Let's welcome John.
Good afternoon, plug and play. My name is John Hui. I'm here to tell you about Triage, a novel communication technology that helps the society accelerate life-saving emergency care. It's hard to believe that we're in the 21st century, but radio is still the standard communication method used between ambulances and hospitals. That means this is what you see at hospitals across the country. This particular photo was taken from a top cover ceiling in a hospital. You have a number of outdated phones on the wall. ER nurses have to step away from patient care to take these calls first call, first serve. When multiple calls come in at the same time, it's difficult for them to triage which one is more critical. They could be spending time talking to an EMT, carrying a patient with a minor injury, while the other paramedic carrying a patient with a stroke or heart attack could be placed on hold. And when they finally get to the phone, this is what they have to deal with: to write down information on a piece of paper for a John Doe or Jen Doe who may or may not have a heart attack. There's no patient ID, no risk clinical symptoms via photos or videos for doctors to make a proper diagnosis. And the worst, only the person who takes the call knows what's going on. The rest of the hospital staff from ED and other service line are blindsided, which could cause critical delay. And unfortunately, hospitals in general have to bear the cost due to the bottleneck created at ED registration, and the pre-hospital delays in heart attack and stroke alone could cost the industry over $2.1 billion each year. And worse, when hospitals make EMS partners and patients wait, they may potentially not coming back. And that is why we created Triage. It's a powerful mobile communication technology that can allow EMS professionals to enter data and notifications in a matter of seconds. And this is what hospital staff sees on their end. They see a live visual tracker that shows all the incoming ambulances triaged by their acuity level, along with the GPS tracking ETA. And they can communicate back forth with their EMS partners, so everyone works at the ER knows who's coming, when they will arrive, and they can direct them to where they should go via room assignment. And this is a photo of our happy customers. We have the right team to win. I'm a serial healthcare entrepreneur who has built multi-million-dollar healthcare businesses myself. My co-founder, Dr. Yijing Yu, is an award-winning Harvard-trained physician innovator, and our CTO, Matt, is experienced in building and scaling up enterprise-level software solutions. We're honored to be recognized by a number of prominent healthcare organizations, AHA, AMA, and Cleveland Clinic. And today, Triage is being used in 11 states at more than 50 hospitals with more than 270 EMS agencies. And each month, we empower more than 10,000 EMS patients to accelerate their life-saving emergency care. We are preparing for our Series A race, and we're interested in talking to any hospitals who want to bring that innovation to their marketplace. I'll be happy to show you more details at my table. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. All right, next up we have Al from Vitagene. Vitagene leverages big data and machine learning to provide actionable, personalized information about diet, fitness, and supplements to its members. Let's welcome Al.
Hi. From entertainment on Spotify, your music, whether it's Netflix on your TV content or your professional content on LinkedIn, consumers have demonstrated that they engage personalization platforms effectively. Vitagene is a health personalization platform leveraging big data and genetics to create actionable wellness recommendations for consumers. To that effect, we have also partnered with corporate partners that want to get to understand their consumers better and engage them on a variety of topics, whether it's on their health journey, where they want actionable recommendations and personalized recommendations on their health journey, or they want product recommendations or service recommendations that personalize to their needs. To that effect, we have partnered with a number of companies in this space in the area of healthcare, with large pharma companies where they want to do research around personalizing work with consumers to better understand them. As an example, we did a study with a company that wanted to do genetic testing, looking for patient-based that wanted to do genetic testing around certain variants and BMI, and the data was extremely powerful and helpful to them. In order to do that, you need to build a back-end layer and a front-end layer
with a service layer that would be able to engage consumers. And what we've done at Whiting has been to build that entire platform that would allow you to analyze massive amount of data with genetics, lifestyle, and other recommendations. We're in the stage of raising our Series A and looking for other corporate partners who want to do that research. So if you're interested, please do contact us at Vitagen, information@vitagen.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. All right, next up, we have Melanie from Prellis Biologics. And Prellis is developing a laser-based 3D printing technology to develop functional human tissues and organs for drug development and ultimately transplantation. Welcome, Melanie.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see so many faces in this audience. I am delighted to share with you today the fastest 3D printing technology, the highest resolution on the face of the planet. This is not sped up. This is 200 microns wide and 200 microns tall, and it's printed in less than 7 seconds. These structures are perfectly sound, and we print them in a non-toxic way so we can embed cells in them. This is a laser-based printing technology, and this is typically how it's done. The laser is scanned across some sort of photoresist or some sort of printing material. But what we've done that's very, very different is we've created a hologram. And so rather than 1, 2, or 10 pixels, we're scanning thousands of pixels at once in 3 dimensions. So this gives us a ton of flexibility. We can take any CAD file we want, run it through our system, and recreate a structure. It has incredibly high resolution, so we can print the structure around the structure. Oops, let's see that real fast. But we can print a map structure around the structure within microns of resolution. So let's compare a little more speed and resolution. So if you wanted to match a regular laser scanner to the same speed and resolution that we're getting, it would take you hours, weeks, or years to print something at a given fill factor. So what does that mean, really? So let's say you wanted to print an average-sized apple, 100 grams of an apple, with a 1% fill factor. And let's pick the fastest speeds listed for each one of these technologies. You would print a little over 3 apples with laser, holographic 3D laser printing, and less than 0.01% of an apple with any other technology. So that allows us to build large structures very, very, very fast. And when you compare it to extrusion printing, I like to say it's like comparing apples to oranges. Extrusion printing has a lot of great applications, but it can't get to the resolution or the speed that we are hitting. All right, so what's a good application for this? I'm a biophysicist by training, and I believe that human tissue engineering is the next medical frontier. Right now, tissue and organ engineering is relegated to sheets of cells or cells that are seated onto structures and do not have proper vascularization. By adding capillaries that can be printed with this high speed and resolution, we can actually unlock the organ and tissue engineering markets, which are huge. So that's not for so obvious, but that's what it sounds like in our lab when something's printing. So that's a printing of a test structure. We're printing test vascular structures as we speak. We're knocking out vascular structures that are about 700 microns of an inlet, so our engineers can handle them easily. And then the human-sized capillaries in the center for our fluid flow testing. And we will make some announcements around this in the next week and a half or so. Our ultimate goal is to print organs and tissue for transplantation. We plan to interface with transplant centers and provide organs at the cost of procurement for today's kidneys, livers, hearts, and lungs. I co-founded this company with Dr. Noelle Mullen in 2016. Noelle has since had a baby and is on with us as a consultant still, but is spending time at home with her adorable daughter. We've filed several patents around this, and we are filing a few more this year. And we've managed to retain several really important advisors, including the former CEO of Organovo, who knows this technology quite well. We're hitting our milestones, and we hope to have a kidney nephron done quite soon. And we will be raising a Series A towards the end of the year, but right now we have a convertible note open for a Series A round if you'd like to join us in this mission. Thank you very much. My name is Melanie, and I'm at PrellisBiologics.com.
Thank you, Melanie. All right. Last but not least, we have Bronwyn of Tueo Health. Tueo is developing an asthma management platform that delivers accurate and objective indicators of asthma control, combined with some clinical insight and understanding of what families need to best control this disease and its outcomes. Let's welcome Bronwyn from Tueo. Thank you.
Great, thank you. 3 minutes stand between you and the end of all these presentations. It's a pleasure to be back. I really appreciate getting to present here at Plug and Play. My name is Bronwyn Harris. I am a pediatric cardiologist, also a mom of 3 children, one of which who suffers from asthma, and the CEO of Tueo Health. And we're transforming the way that we manage asthma. So I don't really have to go into how it is really exciting, the convergence of tech in health right now. You know, what we are particularly focused on is chronic disease management, and how do we use all of this data that is out there, passively obtained data from numerous different sensors that, as of now, is just data and not driving changes in clinical outcomes. So we have spent our seed round really proving out every single step in this path that I show here. You can't just have data and expect patients or physicians, whichever you give it to just automatically make changes. You need to have specific insights about a disease status, but then not just that. There needs to be an actionable intervention as a result of that status change, or why are you noting that status change? And the interventions, you have to be able to engage patients so they actually make a change and you have improved outcomes. So our solution is currently using sleep sensors, which can measure not only sleep, but actual physiologic parameters. We bring in also environmental data, and from that can give a daily assessment of asthma control. That we have a recent publication and proven out the correlation with asthma control and the ability to predict asthma symptoms. We then can have data-driven alerts with personalized education and actionable next steps, all of this supported by an asthma educator. Why start with asthma? Well, 50% of asthma patients are not well controlled, leading to extremely high healthcare costs. And it's not just about exacerbations, that tip of the iceberg there that have high costs. There's a period in the middle of patients who are not well controlled and may not even realize. They may not recognize they have symptoms and likely aren't taking the rescue inhalers. Those are the essential patients you want to be able to reach and actually have them change their management. Asthma is a complex disease, but there are many drivers and signs, all of which can be measured and used as part of our solution. And then again, as I mentioned, you have to have actionable insights. So we have built this solution to not just give a score and give data. We have next steps. We then just completed a randomized clinical study in partnership with Evidation Health to prove that we can take those actionable insights and actually change clinical outcomes. The insights that we are able to show from our analytics are extremely engaging to the patients, engaging with the change alerts, going through question flows, giving us additional data. And from that, have significant reduction in exacerbation and emergency room visits, the ability to really change the care of these patients. And great user experience. 65% saying the app became a part of their regular routine of how they manage their child's asthma. We have lots of great stories of children whose lives have been changed by our solution, and the families didn't want to give the device back. We are now continuing to launching this fall both B2B and B2C, and are looking for investors and corporate partners. So come find me and talk to me. Excited about the future of asthma. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Bronwyn. All right, thank you. So that concludes this session of pitches, but now is the time to vote. So if you care, which we hope you do, pull out your phone and let's submit a vote. And we will announce the winners shortly just after a quick video. So if you see the video, get you some time to vote. And again, that information is on your badges in the lineup or app. Thank you.
I'm so excited to be here for our sixth Health and Wellness Selection Day, hearing from startups to the hospital workflow space, patient engagement, big data analytics, and diagnostics. With Plug and Play, you get such a glimpse of things going on across such a wide breadth of areas related to health.
We saw lots of different companies, and it's exactly what IPI was hoping for, which is a wide range of different startups and different ideas across the health sector. It's honestly vibrant, exciting environment. There's others flying all over the place. It's
literally signed on at the end of the year, and we're already in February having access to 36 companies today. And that is far more than what I can do in a year.
Products are where it's at in healthcare, just because we need innovation.
Traditional companies do a lot of things well. But one of the things that's challenging is thinking a little bit outside the box and bringing new technology. So having startups test new ideas, iterate, and then partner is a great way to bring in innovation in a low-risk way for both of us.
Thank you, everyone. Let's give one more big round of applause to all of the startups pitching today. And thank you to everyone in the audience for your participation and engagement. This has been our biggest expo to date, so I'm really proud to see so many people here. And thank you to all our partners for your continued engagement with the program and all the work that you do with the startups. We'd like to recognize one of our partners in particular for this last FACIS Corporate Innovation Award, Ascension, for their incredible engagement. And I'd like to invite Jim Beckman, Chief Operating Officer, to come up.
Thank you so much. On behalf of Ascension, I accept this. We're delighted to be part of Plug and Play and the family that you all have here. I will tell you that I think as we come out here, we often talk about the financial opportunities, but this work has such important impact on people. And so we're grateful to all of the entrepreneurs in the room that are thinking about solving problems and challenges for people. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And are the votes in? Hopefully everyone's tallied in the app, and we'll have the People's Choice Award winner. And in the meantime, like I said, I have a whole team behind me that makes this all possible, and working with the corporates, working with the startups. So please, the Plug and Play Health team, if you could join me up on stage, we can.
So the votes are in. The winner is Logic Inc. Bert Carlos. Carlos in the building. I thought it did. Okay, that's okay. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone again for coming.
And with that, in the meantime, we do have a reception outside, so please enjoy the great weather, the food, the drinks, and thank you again. Oh, Carlos is here. Nobody's been. Yeah. The People's Choice Award winner for Logic Inc.
Thank you so much, and my colleagues are here with me as well. Thank you.